Okay, so we are now in Matthew chapter 9 and we are comparing this with Mark 5 and Luke 8, right? Luke 8 is the passage, right, for the woman who was sick for so many years. Yeah. So, as I said, she has suffered a lot physically, financially, um, socially, and as far as her cleansing is concerned. So, she is not able to be in festivals. She can't be a part of any religious activity that the other Jews are involved in. Whatever she touches, it becomes unclean. Yeah, and whoever touches that, they also become unclean. So it's an ongoing thing. Wherever she is, there is an unclean presence, and it's not easy. Today we don't have that rule, but back at that time, it was not easy. So this is why she wanted a relief. Okay, she wanted a relief, and she came from behind him and touched the edge of his cloak. She said to herself, if I only touch his cloak, I will be healed. So she knew that her healing can come from Jesus. All right. And normally, when she touches someone, uh, what happens to that person whom she touches? They also become unclean, right? So, by that definition, does Jesus become unclean? No. In fact, her uncleanness is not transferred to Jesus. Rather, Jesus' cleanness is transferred to her. Just like, even after this also, Jesus will touch the dead body of that girl. But Jesus will not be made unclean. Rather, from him life goes to that child. So it's like soap in some ways. Okay, soap doesn't get dirty. Our hands become clean. That's how this is. All right. Immediately her bleeding stopped. As according to Mark 5 verse 29. Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. So the relief that she got was immediate. Okay. Now, at once Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around to the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" So the crowd is like thronging behind Jesus in large numbers. So everyone is touching Jesus. Okay, at least 10 to 12 people are immediately touching Jesus. But Jesus is asking, "Who touched my clothes?" Okay, the disciples are saying to, like, disciples, particularly Peter said this, the people are crowding and pressing against you. But then Jesus said, "Someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me." So she can't escape. She has to come out. She has to come out and tell that she got healed like this. And that's why she came out in Luke 8, verse 47. Then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. The same thing that Jairus did. Jairus also did the same thing, right? He also fell at Jesus' feet. She also falls at Jesus' feet. Uh, she told why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Then he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." Okay. Now, as Jesus was speaking, the people from Jairus' home came and said to them, "Your daughter is dead." So this thing is not mentioned in Matthew. The coming of the servants from Jairus' home is not mentioned in Matthew, because Matthew has only seen the events until the woman being healed. He hasn't seen the girl being raised to life. All right. So your daughter is dead. Why bother the teacher anymore? And Jesus heard what they said, and he said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid, just believe, and she will be healed. Just believe, and she will be healed." Jesus is talking about a dead person. So to take Jesus to a sick person and heal somebody is logical, but to take Jesus to a dead person and expect a resurrection is beyond mental thinking. Understood? So Jesus went there. So he took Peter, James, and John, and they went to the synagogue leader's home. What did they see? They saw Jesus saw a commotion, people crying and wailing loudly. According to Mark 5 verse 38, and in Matthew 9 verse 23. Now, understand this. Palestine is a place where bodies get decomposed really quickly once the death happens. And so the burial happens the same day. Today you have mobile mortuary and everything, so the dead body is preserved until when we want to bury it. But back then, Palestine being a hot place, when a person is dead, decomposition happens quick. So immediately from that locality, there are people who come. These people whom you see, okay, playing pipes and crying and wailing loudly. These were professional mourners. As in, these people come there and cry for money. Okay, have you heard of such a concept? കൂലിക്ക് കരയാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട്. Yeah. These people come to any place where there is a death and they will cry. At the end of the funeral, the house owner will pay the money and they will go. This is the situation here. These people are coming here and they are crying. And when Jesus came there and said to them, "Go away, the girl is not dead but asleep," they laughed at him. So immediately their emotions just changed. Why? Because they are crying for money, right? Sincerity is not there in crying. Alright? So the crowd was outside and he went in and took the girl by the hand. What did he say? Talitha Kaum. Mark 5 verse 41. Little girl, I say to you, get up. Immediately the girl stood up and began to walk around. She was 12 years old. At this, they were completely astonished. Okay, and Jesus told her to get up and to give something to eat, and he told them not to let this be known. Now, I'm just wondering. Obviously, this thing will be known because the girl alive can't be hidden in the house. She will go outside the house. So, why did Jesus say, "Don't let this be known"? Why? You know what? The people were expecting a political Messiah at that time. The Jews always expected a political Messiah, but the Bible always talked about the Messiah first coming to remove the sins of Israel by dying and suffering, and then he will come back to restore the kingdom to Israel. Okay? The Bible talked about the Messiah ruling over Israel. That's there. But the Bible also talks about the Messiah first coming and suffering and dying for Israel. So these two things are there, but the Israel of Jesus' time, they only looked at the political Messiah. And if people know that Jesus did this, they will make Jesus the king and they will expect him to fight against the Romans. So that is why he told them, don't tell it to anyone. Alright, so we will come back to the other Gospels. Now we look at Matthew 9 and verse 27 onwards. Now this is an event which is not there in other Gospels. It's only there in Matthew. So, two blind men followed Jesus, calling out, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." Now, the request is made in verse 27 and in verse 28. Look at the thing that Jesus did. Suppose I'm standing outside and two people are coming asking me for help. Okay, I just go inside. I just come inside this room. What does that look? What does that look like? What does that look like? Two people are asking for asking me for help, but I just come inside, not talking to them, not replying to them. I just come inside. Does that sound polite? No. Well, that is exactly what Jesus did here. Two blind men are following Jesus, calling out, "Have mercy on us, son of David." In normal cases, in other cases, what would Jesus do? Heal them immediately. But here, Jesus, what does he do? He doesn't reply to them. He doesn't show mercy to them immediately. He just goes indoors, into a house. But what are these blind men doing? They don't quit the request. They continue following Jesus. They come to him. In verse 28. And so Jesus asked them, "Do you believe that I am able to do this?" What? Having mercy on them and healing them. "Do you believe that I'm able to do this?" They said, "Yes, Lord." So, calling Jesus the Son of David is not just enough. The Son of David, according to Matthew, if David was the king, then the Son of David has to be what? The king. So, many people are sons of David, but there is one line in which you have kings. So, the ultimate test was whether they were willing to see Jesus as the king, as their king. This was the main issue. Were they just interested in the healing and then going away, forgetting Jesus, or did they want to come under the kingship of Jesus? This was the key issue. That's why he didn't say anything. He just came inside. So, on the surface level, it looks rude or not polite. But then, this is the intent. Do you believe that I am able to do this? As in, are you fully sure that whatever you ask, I can do it? Do you believe I can do it? But do you believe that? Yes, Lord. This is what they said. And then he touched their eyes and said, "According to your faith, let it be done to you." So, their following Jesus is an act of faith. Yeah, their following Jesus is an act of faith. And then Jesus told them, warned them sternly, "See that no one knows about this." But people are so obedient, right? According to verse 31. But they went out and spread the news about him all over that region. And then the next event that is coming up here in chapter 9, verse 32, is while they were going out, a man who was demon possessed and could not talk was brought to Jesus. And when the demon was driven out, the man who had been mute spoke. The crowd was amazed and said, "Nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel." But the Pharisee said, "It is by the prince of demons that he drives out demons." Evil spirits are being driven out. Okay? And the Pharisees say this. He has Satan working in him. That is why he is doing this. That is what they say about Jesus. Why would they say like this about Jesus? Why? Why would they say like this about Jesus? Hmm? Well, why are the Pharisees making this remark about Jesus? As in, why do they say that Jesus is demon possessed? Why would they say Jesus is demon possessed? They also healed in chapter 12 of Matthew. Chapter 12 of Matthew, verse 27. Again, the Pharisees are the ones who say it is by only by Beelzebul, the prince of demons, that this fellow drives out demons. And verse 27. If I drive out demons by Beelzebul, by whom do your people drive them out? So they are also involved in chasing out demons. So why do they call Jesus demon possessed? That's my question. Yeah, it's true that they didn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah, but can we give another reason to that? Okay. See, if you're looking at Matthew chapter 5 to 7, there are many things that Jesus says against them, but it's not direct. He uses the word hypocrites and describes the, the Pharisees' lifestyle as a hypocrite's lifestyle. So he actually exposed their sins. And he said, right, your righteousness must exceed the righteousness of the Pharisees and the scribes. Otherwise, you're not getting the kingdom of heaven. So the Pharisees thought about themselves as easy entry people to heaven. But Jesus says to others, you have to be better than them. They don't get into heaven. You have to be better than them. And then they hated Jesus because Jesus was eating with tax collectors and sinners. Matthew 9, verse 9 to 13, especially 10 and 11. Okay? Matthew 9, verse 9 to 13. Jesus was so direct in, in eating with the tax collectors and sinners. And so, when he did something which they did, chasing out demons, the Pharisees said, this man is demon possessed. Okay, so this is one instance of where they call Jesus a demon possessed person. Now, moving on to 9 verse 35, Jesus goes around to the towns and villages and synagogues and teaching proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. Okay. Then, when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless. The crowds are harassed and helpless. One, they are being harassed by the Roman soldiers and the government, and they are helpless. In what sense are they helpless? On top of the Roman oppression, the Pharisees and the scribes are, putting more and more extra biblical laws to overburden them, regarding spiritual life. Like they had so much of laws which like suffocated them. Don't walk for more than half a mile on a Sabbath. Don't knead doves on a Sabbath. Don't write anything on a Sabbath. Every minute thing is so controlled. This is so helpless. And if I say to you, wear a shirt with 5 buttons. Everyone must wear a shirt with 5 buttons, same color. Okay, same color, 5 buttons only. So then, how many buttons do you have in a shirt? Count. One, six. So if I give you the law, the sixth button should not be stitched in. You can't remove your sixth button. You have to have a shirt which originally has 5 buttons. So you have to go to a tailor to actually uh, make such a shirt. And you can't make one shirt only. You have to make 5 shirts at least for each of you. Same color. And you don't have tailors that will do that. So you'll have to go around searching for that. So isn't that going to be a tough thing? Yeah. That's the sort of life that these people are living. Okay. And then Jesus said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field. So Jesus is now starting to train his disciples to do what he has been doing. In 9 verse 35, Jesus went to all the towns, villages, taught in the synagogues, proclaiming the gospel, good news of the kingdom, healing every disease and sickness. This is what he will ask his disciples to do as he sends them out two by two. Okay. So in chapter 10, you have the next major sermon of the book of Matthew. The first major sermon was the Sermon on the Mount. The second major sermon is this. Okay. Matthew chapter 9 verse 37. Yes. What is it? What does it mean? The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. See, there are so many needs. There are so many people with the need for eternal life, but there are very few people to go and tell them about that. Jesus alone can't do so many things. So he is asking or he is telling the disciples to pray for that first. Pray that God would send workers into the harvest field so that they will also be involved in what Jesus is doing. So as he tells them to pray, Jesus sends them. So look at 10 verse 1. Okay, now before I move ahead, Mark chapter 6 and verse 7 to 12 or 7 to 13. This is a summary statement of whatever Matthew is saying in Matthew 10. Okay, Mark 6 verse 7 to 13. It's a summary statement. Okay, now there is one more thing that I need to tell you with regard to this. If you look at the Gospel of Luke, in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 9, the same thing is happening there. Okay, Matthew 10, Mark 6, and Luke 9. This is the same thing. Luke 9 verse 1 to 6. It's the same thing, okay? So Luke 9 verse 1 to 6 and Mark 6 verse 7 to 13 are summary statements of the big message that Jesus said in Matthew 10. Now, regarding Luke, there are two times in which Jesus sends his disciples. Just for your information. Okay? In Luke 9 verse 1 to 6, Jesus sends the 12. And then in Luke 10 verse 1 to 12, Jesus sends 72. Okay, so there are two sendings in Luke. One, he sends the 12. Second, he sends 72. Now, when he sends 72, why that 70? Why number 70? In some translations, it's 70, not 72. In the footnotes, in the footnote of chapter 10 of Luke, verse 1, some manuscripts it says 70. Correct? Okay, in your Malayalam Bible, it's not there. In the main thing, it's 72, but in the footnote, check the footnote, it's 70. 70, right? Okay. So why 70? Why not 71? Why not 69? Why 70? It's intentional. Jesus choosing to send 70 people is intentional. Why? It's because this 70 corresponds to the number of nations that you see in Genesis 10. You see, from the three sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Nations and languages spread, right? How many nations are there? 70. 70 nations are there, spread out. So this is a Gentile outreach, which is being mentioned here. Okay. Luke 10 is about the Gentile outreach. Luke 9 is about the outreach in Israel. See, in Matthew 10, Jesus says to them, do not go to the Samaritans, do not go to the Gentile, but go to the lost sheep of Israel. Matthew 10, just check out that passage. Matthew 10. Matthew 10 verse 5 and 6. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. So, Matthew 10 is uh, a parallel to Mark 6 and Luke 9. This is a specific mission trip to the Israelite areas. And Luke 10 is a mission trip to Gentile areas. This is the connection that you need to understand. Okay. So, in all of these places, the main thing that Jesus says is pretty much the same here and there. There is no difference. As in, I am sending you like lambs among wolves, do not take a purse, and all of those things Jesus says to them. So, those short term mission guidelines are all the same. There is no difference among that. Okay. Now, let's come to Matthew 10, verse 1. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. Connecting to what he did in verse 9 verse 35. Okay. Now the 12 apostles' names are mentioned here. So I'll just try to say it in memory. Okay. Peter, Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew or Nathaniel, Matthew, Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon the Canaanite, Judas the brother of James, and Judas Iscariot. 12 apostles who are being mentioned here by name. So this might be one question that will come for your exam. So make sure that you write these names. Okay. And with these 12, Jesus gives out the following instructions. Jesus in verse 5 says, do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Why should they not enter it? Is it because Jesus didn't like the Samaritans or the Gentiles? No, no, no. That's not why it is. Okay. Jesus will enter the Gentile area. As in, when he healed the two demon possessed men, he was in the Gentile area. Jesus healed the centurion servant. Jesus will go to the Samaritan area in John 4. So it's not about hatred towards them. It's like when a cricket matches, before a cricket match happens, the players will do their training in the practice pitches, right? So the coach and the ground staff forbids the players from going to the main pitch where the actual match will happen. They are allowed to do their practice in the practice pitches. So, go to the lost sheep of Israel is more like a practice pitch. You play here, get better here, and then you go there. Understood? Okay, this is more like that. First, I'm sending you for a short term mission for a few days, and you do what I have been doing in Israel for some days. Okay? Go to the lost sheep of Israel. So, again, why this sheep analogy here? Why is Jesus calling Israel sheep? Why not any other animal? Hmm? No, all we like sheep have gone astray, right? So sheep always don't go into the same direction. They all go in different directions. It's tough to maintain them. Huh? Of course, they need a leader. But then why is Israel being called sheep? See, Psalm 23 verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And then Ezekiel 34, where uh, Israel is on the whole referred to as sheep of God. Check it out. Ezekiel 34. Look, Ezekiel 34 verse 2. Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Woe to you, shepherds of Israel, who only take care of yourselves. Should not shepherds take care of the flock? So, in all of this passage, in all of this chapter, uh, Israel is the sheep. Israel is the sheep, and in verse 11, look at this. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. Okay, and then uh, look at verse 24. I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David will be prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken. So, look at verse 31 now of that same passage. Chapter 34, verse 31. You are my sheep, the sheep of my pasture, and I am your God. Okay, and then Psalm 95, verse 6 and 7. Come, let us worship, bow down in worship, let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, for He is our God, and we are the people of His pasture, the flock under His care. And then Psalm 100, verse 3. Know that the Lord is God. It is He who made us, and we are His people, the sheep of His pasture. So it's not an accident that Jesus calls Israel sheep, because they belong to Him. Since Jesus is Yahweh God, Israel belongs to Him. Israel is the sheep, the lost sheep. They are lost. They are gone astray. All we like sheep have gone astray. നാം ഒക്കെ ആടുകളെ പോലെ തെറ്റിപ്പോയി. Isaiah 53. Yeah. And the Lord has laid on Him the iniquity of us all. Okay. So this is why Jesus uses the sheep statement in chapter 10 of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 6. So Israel is supposed to go. Obviously, it will be a bigger baggage, right? What if you are never going to come back? You will take all that you have and go. Correct, right? That you will not keep your books here. You will not keep anything that belongs to you here. You will take all of them. So then the luggage becomes even bigger. So what I'm trying to say here is Jesus is saying to these people to plan your provisions and plan your money in such a way that you have enough money and dress and sandals for this many days. Why? For the worker is worth his keep, for the laborer is worthy of his reward. When they are going to do ministry the way Jesus did, they will get their livelihood from the people whom they are ministering to. Just like there were people who financially supported Jesus' ministry, the same way these people will also have their support from people who are being ministered by them. Understood? Good. Now, verse 11. Whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person and stay in their home house until you leave. Well, uh, what does it mean here? A worthy person is somebody who seeks to imitate the